here. I'm so happy. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy to have you. How are you doing today?
Yeah, let me see. I don't see you right now. I think it's waiting. It's starting right now, or probably. Are you? Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. I see you. Yeah, I see you there. So
hey man, thank you for being here. How are you doing today?
yeah, I'm totally fine. And yeah, first of all, thanks yeah for inviting me for your project. As I said, I really like it to yeah join other other people's projects. Like especially when it's about languages. And yeah, I'm totally fine. Like I've had a good Christmas, and well, I'm still practicing languages. And
That's
how are you doing?
great.
Yeah,
You and I recently did a video in Spanish, and I really wanted to get you on my interview series because I think you are a super interesting guy and a super positive person in this whole language learning community. And it's been so nice to know you, the amounts that I have known you so far. So,
well,
yeah.
thanks a lot for the compliment. I appreciate it, and yeah, thanks again that I have this opportunity. Like to answer your questions, and yeah, I always like to motivate other language learners. So it's always cool to yeah participate in other projects. So I think it's always interesting to talk to different people with like different visions or similar visions to language learning, and I think it's interesting to combine our strengths. So that's why I always like to yeah talk to different people with different yeah perspectives, because we can inspire each other. And yeah, indeed, it's an interesting language learning community with different personalities, people with different approaches of practicing languages, and I think it's cool that we can talk about that. So that is very cool. Yeah.
Right. So I think you're a really interesting figure. So I really wanted to kind of interview you and go a little deeper because I haven't seen that anyone has really interviewed you so far. So am I the first one?
Let me see. I have been interviewed recently, a couple of weeks ago, by a friend of me, like a German polyglot, and
Hmm.
I've also yeah I've been interviewed by some people, some yeah different yeah as I said different personalities, different people, and yeah, but yeah I normally don't have so many like how do you say it, like I probably also have like one, yeah, there was one lady interviewing me as well, which is a video on my channel. But yeah,
Mm,
mostly I have videos where I interview other people. So indeed
right.
that's maybe why you didn't yeah notice that so far. But yeah, I always yeah also to other people, like I mean I gladly join an interview if people want to get to know more about if they want to get to know more about me.
Mm.
That's fine. So
So I just wanted to start off by asking you, you have a huge passion for languages, but I need to know, where did this passion start? How did this guy that we know today become this guy? Where did it all begin for you? How did this interest start? How did it bloom? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
yeah, sure. I can definitely tell that. Well, I at the Sanseschans, that's like a sort of windmill village in the Netherlands. There, well, this year it's differently. Like I'm not working there this year because of the Corona circumstances, but normally in other years I'm selling my art there, and
Right.
we also talked about that, right? And there is a huge variety of different tourists with different cultural backgrounds and nationalities, and I was always very interested in yeah connecting to these people. Like I wanted to get to know more about these people. So I started learning some languages by talking to these tourists, and I think 23 years old. I'm 31 years old right now, and
Mm-hmm.
at that moment that I was 23 years old, I started learning um, some Chinese by talking to these people. But it was a very very basic way of learning a language. I mean, I didn't have the opportunities which I have right now. For example,
Wow.
Chinese. I can tell something more about that later. At that time, I was just like practicing whatever Chinese, Russian with tourists, and it was not so serious. Like I was
Right.
just having a fun way of talking to these people, like having very basic conversations. But I didn't have the opportunities which I have right now. And well, I learned English at the primary school since I was 7.
Mm-hmm.
So English is one of the languages which I can have deep conversations in English. I mean, I feel very comfortable. Yeah, when I speak English. I also learned French and German at the secondary school. So these languages were sort of present in my life. And the other languages like Chinese, Russian, well, it was very difficult for me to start talking in these languages because people didn't understand me at the beginning. But well, later I made a video for my channel, and like that was my first video where I was speaking 18 languages with tourists, and well, most of the languages I spoke them at a very well basic level, you know. But however, I still liked it to make such a video to inspire people, but also that people could tell me my mistakes, mention my mistakes, and what
Mm-hmm.
I could improve. So always when I'm making videos, creating videos, it's always to show my process, you know. And actually later, well, each year it became more. I feel more in love with languages, and I
Wow.
know more people around me. And well, right now, for example, I think I can have deep conversations in 6 languages. Spanish is one of them. You
Oh,
know, also
nice.
talk about. We also talked in Spanish. We had a deep conversation. That was
We
very
did.
interesting. So I mostly have exercises in order to improve these 6 best languages. Yeah, I have sort of exercises that I talk about different topics. But next year, actually, if we look at 2021, I want to get more languages to these levels, you know, and Russian will be one of those languages, Mandarin as well.
Wow.
My battery is a bit low, so but yeah, I can still. It's
Tour of
always
the
like
apartment as well.
having some calls during the day. It's like crazy. But yeah, I want to get more languages to these levels actually, and that's I think that's very interesting because yeah, for example, my Japanese is at a very I would say low basic level, but
Right.
yeah, like I this week I also practiced a little bit, and next year I also want to improve it actually. I want to get it to a nice level, you know, and I want to tell something about that. Like, so these in 6 languages I can have deep conversations, and in the other 23 languages I have different levels which are lower, but
Mm-hmm.
you know different. You know, like some languages are at a low basic level, some languages more at a survival level, and actually it's my dream to get each year. I want to choose 6 languages and get them at a very nice level. I also want to tell that many other people with channels, for example, they also inspired me a lot. So sometimes there are people like you who, for example, speak 3 languages, but at a very high level, you know. And I've
Well,
just
Russian, not yet, but two, let's say.
well, you speak 2 languages at a high level, you know, and
Mhm.
that, I mean that's very cool. And I have a huge respect for people who are speaking whatever 2 or 3 languages at a very high level because I know I can imagine how much time that takes, you know, because like even when I speak English, well, my English is not C2 level, but probably C1 level, you know. And if someone speaks 2 languages at C2 level, for example, in your case, I think that takes a lot of time. People don't have an idea about how much time that takes. It maybe takes
Mhm.
even more. Well, like bringing a language to C2 level from C1 takes maybe as much time as like whatever learning 15 languages and get them to the A2 level or B1. Not sure about it, but it's a huge amount of time, you know. And well, I basically yeah started learning many different languages because I wanted to connect to different people, and I also like it. For example, like I can read in Russian, for example, write in Russian. I really
Mhm.
like it. It's a privilege that I can connect with my audience in Russian because many there are just many Russians, you know. And
Oh,
even when the
this
level
is
is,
true.
I think my Russian is maybe A2 level. I still love it that I can already communicate with them and understand their questions mostly. Yeah, when it's about basic stuff, I can understand them, and that's just something cool, you know. But at the same time,
Absolutely.
when I meet people like you who speak whatever 2 languages at a very high level, they really inspire me to get out of my comfort zone. You know, like people like you improve me to become more serious and
Mm.
dive into a language and to get to know more about it. And that reminds me really, yeah, the conversation which we had together about luck, and that was just very interesting, you know.
Of
And when
course.
you have trainings, it helps you to get to know, to realize which words you don't know yet, which words you can replace for other words, and I like that process. That's just very cool.
Right, because I would say a word and maybe you would say that, but you would say it a little wrong, but you would hear how I would say it, then you would immediately know how to adapt it to your the
Exactly.
conversation.
Exactly. Like it's even like that. Like when I'm adding when I'm adding the subtitles, for example, in a video project where I was talking to you or to Richard Simcott, for example, like I could, for example, understand. Well, if you speak Spanish at a very high level, I would still understand 90% completely. The other 5% I could guess it because of the context. And you know, because then you know, oh, it means that. And the other 5% I need a dictionary for that to look up. But however, I
Which is
could,
very good too.
yeah, but I could follow the entire conversation, you know, yeah, because 95% of understanding is enough to understand what you're
Or-
saying. But the other 5%, which I'm researching basically by adding subtitles, it's a very important 5% in order to learn new words. It's like I'm sleeping, I'm dreaming, and these words which I've heard before are coming back into my mind. You know, it's the same as watching a movie with subtitles or whatever. You know, you still hear those words, and that's a funny thing which I realized this year. Like this year, I put like 20 hours in language learning per week since
Oh,
May.
it's
Now
epic.
even 25 hours per week, and I just speak languages for 5 hours per day, and then later it takes so much time to process the information that it's getting back in my dreams, and that's a very interesting thing. Then I just woke up to go to the toilet, whatever, and it's like, oh, wait a sec, oh, this word I heard it before, and interesting, you know. So it's basically indeed what you're saying. You're hearing vocabulary which you're normally not using, and suddenly you're also using it. You know, it's the same as how a child learns languages. I mean, a child also didn't know these words before, right? And then suddenly you know
Right.
those words, and that's so cool. I mean, that's very interesting.
And I'm
Yeah.
sure you found out that like you would learn a word and like immediately after, or the day after, or an hour after, you would just start to hear that word and it
Yeah.
just reinforces everything, right?
Yeah, it's like that. But also, for example, like if you watch documentaries, for example, about very specific topics, and like it's even possible to talk about topics where you don't know anything about. So, for example, philosophy. That's something where I don't know anything about. Like I have
Yeah.
conversations with a friend, for example. He studied philosophy. When he talks about that, I have problems replying in Dutch. You know, like I'm like,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
But I mean,
100%.
yesterday I joined a live from a Brazilian guy. We were talking in Portuguese. He was talking about philosophy. I also told him the same. Like in Portuguese, I told him that I don't know anything, that I don't know so much about this topic. However, I wanted to show my audience like how can we still maintain a conversation about philosophy when I don't know anything about it. You could basically maintain it by asking questions like, você pode falar pouco mais sobre filosofia, você pode dizer porque você gosta de filosofia, você tem livros, o qual pessoa é uma inspiração grande para você,
Mhm.
é o o qual ideia você tem sobre a vida, por exemplo. So which idea do you have about
Wow.
life?
Spanish
Which
is amazing to know. I just understood that Portuguese.
yeah. You speak Spanish, right? So you can understand it. So what I'm trying is like telling him what he knows about philosophy. So I'm still like having a sort of key to keep
Uh-huh.
that conversation like interesting, you know. So even when I don't know anything about it, you could still ask people questions like what does it mean? What are you doing? Then they're talking, and based on what they are saying, you could still reply. And it's not a game of knowledge. No, it's a matter of having an interesting conversation, which you could also continue by asking things and replying on that and talking about, for example, what I said before. What is your vision about life? Or, yeah, uma outra pergunta é como o qual partes diferentes de livros diferentes sobre filosofia pode ajudar você com a sua vida agora. So which parts from different books can help you in your life, you know, like that. And that's then you've like an interesting conversation. Basically, you know the layers, you know you understand why this person is interested in philosophy, and you will sometimes you just have to ask one question, one interesting question, and that person keeps talking. Based on that, you reply. You know, I mean, well, I mean, that's also what.
Yeah, you can learn a lot from that, surely. And I wanted to ask you, you're a guy
Yeah,
who studied so many languages, and I think when you study so many languages or study other languages in depthly, that you start to lose abilities or certain abilities in your native language. Have you noticed this? And if so, in what ways has your Dutch, let's say, improved or even, gotten worse as a result of spending so much time with foreign languages?
that's a very good question actually, because a while ago I made a video about that. Like, should you improve your mother tongue? And I said yes.
Uh,
I think because like your mother tongue is like your house. You know, like it's mother tongue. You know, it's your house. It's
of
your
course.
feel safe. You know, speaking that language. Where I thought about is like there's a sort of vocabulary and a sort of like base of vocabulary which could help you a lot in the future, because like almost a lot of languages from Europe, they have like elements from which are Latin related, and when you know them, you will understand other words in a certain language. So, for example, interpretação in Portuguese, in Dutch is like the interpretatie, interpretation in English. You know, I could never recognize that word if I didn't know the word in my own mother tongue. So basically, your the words which you get to know in your mother tongue uh, could help you a lot in the future when you want to have a conversation with someone. And there are people, even when they speak their mother tongue, they don't use such words. You know, so
Mhm.
they also
Exactly.
yeah. So basically, you could even when I would have like a lower level in Portuguese or Spanish than a native speaker from well, any language, you know, I don't have like yeah, I would say my Portuguese is or Spanish, they are not fluent, but maybe yeah, I don't know, maybe intermediate or high intermediate, I'm not sure, but I mean like I still have the ability to have like deep conversations. But some people, when they speak their mother tongue, they don't know certain words. You know, it depends on your if those people, for example, would be all the time on the street, you know, using like slang and curse language or whatever, they wouldn't be able to write a formal letter. You know what I mean? Well, I think like everything what you're learning by yourself, or what you're learning because you're trying to be polite or formal, could help you a lot in the future when you're studying any new language. So,
Of
and
course.
basically, I'm training these six languages where I was talking about at the beginning, in which I can have the deep conversations. I'm training to get to know more vocabulary. So my brain is a sort of sponge. I'm trying to use the words which other people are using. So it's a sort of magnet. So yeah,
Um, right. I know I have understood my own language, English, much better as a result of learning Spanish. And like you said, in fact, like, for example, there's been instances where I've spoken Spanish and I've used words that basically I took from English but exist in
yeah,
Spanish. And people sometimes think, wow, like, how do you know those words? Or I don't even know those words, like,
yeah,
what does that mean? So that's kind of funny.
yeah. That's indeed the that's a good yeah, perception. But what I also think like is it also depends on like how, for example, like which conversation you have with people is really, it depends on what you have in common with someone. So for example, someone could have like uh, a lot of vocabulary knowledge, but I still wouldn't be able to have an interesting conversation with a person. And however, like, um, how can I explain this well? Like, sometimes it's not about just like learning a lot of words. It's about saying less with, or saying a lot with less words. You know what I
Of
mean? So,
course, of course.
in my opinion, it's also sort of game about like improvising. About if you don't know a word, try to well, I often like admit that I don't know the word, but I will still use the language. So, and I will try to look for a synonym. Then I have like two things at once. It's like I will find out what that word is, but I will still have my creative imagination in order to,
Yeah,
in another way, you know. So
of
that's very
course.
cool. I think it's a sort of game part, which is very cool in
Ah,
language learning. And if you
I
trans,
completely agree.
yeah, if you
And I've
transform language
never heard,
into a game, then it
Oh,
becomes
I've never heard many people talk about this, but I've actually had an idea to make a video of like this same subject because, for example, like I'm learning this like with every class in Russian, and I've known
yeah,
it for quite some time because it's like when you want to say something, basically it's like a close translation to how it would be in your native language, let's say. But you know, sometimes you don't have that vocabulary. But if you just take a second to think how you could formulate some of your ideas, you could say exactly what you want to say, maybe not with the exact words, but you can say it in a way that completely illustrates your idea, or just basically another way to say what you were going to say using different words. So I find this game interesting of just being able to maneuver the language at whatever level you have. You know, I think
yeah.
this is just so fun.
Por ejemplo, cuando no conozco la palabra el árbol de Navidad, no lo sé para 100% qué es esta palabra, pero podríamos imaginar que no conozco esta palabra. Es posible de explicar, que es un objeto de la naturaleza que
Uh,
es muy importante que podemos sobrevivir, pero es muy peligroso porque hay menos de estas objetos de la naturaleza porque muchas personas quieren este objeto en la casa. No es muy bien
exactly.
la naturaleza, pero es muy importante que las personas tienen esta cosa en la casa.
Oh, yes, Christmas tree. I know what you mean.
El
Yeah.
tiempo de diciembre especialmente, porque las personas creen que ya hay un ambiente mejor con esta cosa. ¿Qué es la cosa? See, you already said it. But that's
Christmas tree.
yeah, like that's what I mean. So what I try to do is like if I don't get to know a word, I try to survive speaking that language. You know, it's almost
Of
like a sort of
course.
game, you know. So yeah, maybe we could do a sort of game like that, you know, like yeah, that's funny. Like guessing words.
Right.
It's funny.
So you answered the first part about how knowing foreign languages, you know, can help from language to language or in your own language. But have you noticed like a decrease in some aspects of your ability in Dutch? For example, in English, I've noticed some of my spelling has gotten a little bit worse because I try to read in Spanish. Let's say if it's something, if I have English, the English version and the Spanish version, I'm going to read the Spanish version. So I've noticed, you know, maybe lack of uh, reading in English, because I try to read more in Spanish, and maybe writing. I have to think like, how do you spell that word? Oh, I think that's wrong. Like you know, because English is a little bit tricky with its spelling like that. Have you noticed anything like that with your native language, where it's kind of gotten a little bit
Yeah.
worse?
Sometimes it happened that I you know, like it seemed like starting like you know, like the engine of a car, you know, like it takes some
Uh-huh.
time before the motor is warm before you can drive, you know. And it's the same when switching to another language. It takes some time before you are into that language. And I even have that when I speak English. So for example, now I join a longer interview of you just in English, right? Then I speak a better English than when I would speak English for 2 minutes in a video, for
Mhm.
example. And after that, Spanish and Portuguese. It takes some time before you are really with your mind in that language and that you feel very comfortable, you know.
Right.
Switching between languages is a very difficult aspect. Some people don't realize that, but
I
it
was going to
is.
ask you. It is?
It is, yeah. Like it takes some time. Well, I think it's a good. I already compared it with the car. You know, it takes some time before the motor is, you know, ready, and
Right,
then
right.
it's the same with speaking a language. So, for example, when I need to speak a language with a stranger, you know, and that person just has 2 minutes time, then at the moment that I feel like, oh yeah, cool, I can speak that language, that person is leaving, you know. And when I
Yeah.
would have a longer conversation, for example, with you, as what we had last time in Spanish, the first 5 minutes I speak, well, I'm still like warming up, you know, and after a while, the language is in my heart, you know, and then I speak it better. So compare it with fitness, you know, like when you're doing muscle exercises, you know, like the first 5 minutes, your muscles need, yeah, to do well. They need to be ready, you know. You're not doing the heavy exercises in the first 5 minutes, you know, and
Right.
that's feeling that same experience. That's the same experience which I have when I'm speaking a language. However, that's also the reason why I would have these mistakes as well when I speak Dutch, my mother tongue. Is that I'm yeah, basically I need time to that my brains are like realizing, okay, I'm speaking Dutch, and it's
Right.
weird. Yeah.
And you mentioned something, a phenomenon that I've noticed. I live in Mexico City, and I've
Yeah.
noticed with my own just Spanish. Anytime you can get me in kind of like a conversation format, it's like, oh wow, my Spanish is like really nice. But sometimes, for example, if I'm just walking out of my apartment, I need to say something to the doorman, or like I see a buddy in the hallway. Like I noticed that my Spanish is just kind of like, it's not, you wouldn't imagine my Spanish is as good as it is like talking to me in conversation, because like, maybe I'm thinking about something. Of course, I'm thinking in English, and then like someone says something to me, or I need to say something, like it doesn't come out so nice. It comes out a little clumsy, and I'm like, man, what the heck, And I start to think, oh, what's up with that? But I've noticed that just like being able to sit down and relax and speak to someone, like the language comes out, at least for me, so much nicer, as opposed to just like needing to use it like at a moment's notice.
Yeah, it's
That's
also
just something that I've noticed.
you'll feel comfortable. Like when you know someone better, I think it's also easier to catch the words. Like when you know someone for a longer time, for example, it also feels more comfortable and yeah, to speak that language. And I sometimes also have moments that I'm like, yeah, that is, uh, how do you say that I speak, for example, a lot of Spanish during the day, and indeed, when I have to speak Spanish, Dutch after that, I'm like, hey, why do I have to speak Dutch? I don't want to. And sometimes my mind is just saying, okay, no, I'm right now in this language, and it's weird. Sometimes one language is better than the other language, while it is
Right.
supposed to be better. It's really crazy. But it's interesting though. I mean,
Of
I would
course.
say it's a sort of like, if I would make an illustration of this, it would be like a sort of like my brain. You could sort of like it contains different closets and containing different language information, and you always have to put the right words in the right closets, and some closets are getting empty because they're like, yo, you are never looking for my words in the closet. Okay, and then that closet is closing its doors, and then I barely remember the words of that language. So for there are some languages which I barely speak, and then these closets just don't want to open their doors, and that's the thing with my head, like, so there are like 10 closets in my head which are more active, um, or maybe 12 closets, and other closets like are, well, it's the same, like, yeah, imagine in your room, like when you never go to one closet, you don't know where your books are anymore, you don't know.
Exactly.
That's the feeling which I
These
have. So
closets don't want to let you in. They're like, nope, we're staying closed, not
yeah,
opening
yeah,
them.
yeah, like that, like this. I'm like, there are 12 languages or something which I just speak way more, and the other 17 I don't speak so much. Or it's also
Right.
because of the Corona circumstances. Like this year, I don't have the chance to interact with tourists on the streets. So yeah, it's sometimes a little bit difficult. But however, I'm still trying to maintain it. I'm trying my best.
Wonderful,
When I'm alone,
wonderful.
I'm just talking to myself, and
So
yeah.
you mentioned something, that I think you said some of these languages are so close to your heart. I think emotional connection and language learning is so important. I don't think that enough people talk about it, because, if I think about my Spanish, I think about everything that I've lived through this language, just amazing experiences, friends, love, connecting with family, living in a different country. Like it's something that could never not be a part of me now. I made a tweet some time ago. It's like, I could never go back to the monolingual lifestyle. Like it's just impossible. So
It's
for
like
you,
this, like it's like, like you like hard rock, you told me I like hard rock, but I also like, for example, hip hop, and someone is telling me you have to choose one of them. I'm saying no, I want them both. And all these languages are like different instruments, like one is a guitar, one is a piano. It's really like that, some languages sound like rock, like Arabic, for
right.
example, and another language like well, let's say Chinese sounds very instrumental with those tones, sounds beautiful. And
Wow, interesting.
yeah, you don't want to get it away. You feel like your associations with these languages, you fell in love with a language. And I always say it like this: it doesn't take so much time before a language is yeah, how do you say, like before you can it take okay like understanding like parts of the grammar, you know, like past simple
Hmm.
stuff like that, or daily vocabulary, learning that stuff. That doesn't take a lot of time. It takes a lot of more time before a language really is in your heart. You know, that's something which is very rare. You know, and
Absolutely, yeah.
it takes a lot of time. You know, so I maybe have like six languages are really in my heart. You know, and because I can just, you know, like I can say Spanish or German or French, and I can speak it. But there are some other languages which it just takes so much time before I'm like, yeah, how do you say it? Like feeling comfortable. I don't
Right.
feel so comfortable when I speak it. So it's like I'm hesitating. I'm thinking like, what do I need to say? Of course, I'm also hesitating when I speak Spanish or Portuguese, but on a different level. It is there are so many differences between languages, so many contrasts. They are so different from each other, and that makes it very difficult. And
Right.
this is a message to anyone. In my opinion, you should not care about what your level is. So I think that when you have a basic level of a language, you should just speak it. All right. And you could just tell people like that you speak it, but on a basic level. And
Hmm.
that's also my opinion. Like I also speak the languages which I speak on a basic level because that's the way how you should start. So when I make videos, I basically want to inspire people, you know. And even when I have a basic level, I basically want to show people how I start and which mistakes I make. So I'm not showing how good I am. No, I
Yeah,
show
it's not
opposite.
perfection.
I want to show which mistakes I make and why and how. And I try to learn from that. And when people see the process, you know, so I already told you like there are now six basic languages which I want to get at a deep conversational level as well at the end of 2021. That's my challenge, my idea. So let's say Chinese, Russian, I think Indonesian as well, Tagalog, Japanese. I was thinking about that as well. I want to get them at a very yeah, I want to get them at a nice level at the end of 2021. And also, what's the other language? I forgot it. Ah, Catalan. Yeah. So
Mm.
that's where I was thinking about to get them at a nice level at the end of 2021. And when people see how many mistakes I make at the beginning with my previous videos, and then see the whole process 1 year later, I think I motivate people because I show them that they should not be afraid to just start. And people are not judging them if they're trying. And I think that process is interesting that people see, yeah, I'm not afraid of making mistakes. That's my whole thing. You know, I'm
Right.
yeah.
You put yourself out there. But what would you say to those people? Because polyglots like you and some other people that speak many languages, I think sometimes get some criticism because you guys
Yeah.
can communicate in many languages, but they say why bother learning so many languages if you can barely, put a sentence together or something like that, what would you say to these people?
Well, let me say one thing first. Like, I mean, people can always criticize me. You know, like I'm open minded for feedback. You know, I think that's a good thing, something where I can learn something from. But at the same time, they should also know what my intention is. You know, like for
Hmm.
example, they also tell about my English and my Spanish that it's bad. You know, uh, they
Uh-huh.
also think about my Spanish that I speak whatever three phrases or whatever. You know, I've also read that in comments, and that's basically not true because like for example we had an hour conversation in Spanish. Like how could I manage that if I
Of
know just three?
course.
It's, I mean that's not right. So I already tell that there are six languages in which I can have a deep conversation, you know, and the other 23 languages they have different levels, and I basically want to show the process, you know. um, and to those people who were yeah like were, for example, thinking that I should not practice those languages or whatever, or not speak those languages, they're basically telling me to forget these languages or something because how you need to start somewhere, right? You always need to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. For example, when you're walking, you know, you also fell down, right? I mean, but if you never walk, if you never try to walk, you will never walk finally well, you know? So
Right.
first you practice crawling, later walking, right? I mean, and if I show my process of crawling, and show my basic levels at the beginning, but I show the people the process of how I started and improve, and also I show my courage that I'm not afraid to speak it and to make mistakes. Then
Right.
I'm just trying to say I always tell people that I can mention my mistakes. So if I already tell people like, yo, in most of the languages I have a basic level, but I want to improve them. Please tell me my mistakes. Then I don't understand
Yeah.
that how do you say it? If I would be really arrogant, for example,
Hmm.
or telling that I speak all these languages well, then it's a different story. But I'm
Of
not saying
course, you're
languages are
completely humble.
conversational level, and the other 23 languages are at, well, basic level, or maybe, yeah, let's say for example my Italian is maybe like low intermediate, something like that, but they're all at different levels. Most of them are basic, but
Yeah,
the
and I think
yeah,
what's people need people need to
yeah,
understand. Look, it's like I think if a person speaks one foreign language,
yeah,
at a nice level, like you said, that's a thing to really appreciate. So it's like if a person
yeah,
has that, who cares how many languages they learn or what language they want to learn? Because it's really about their own personal fulfillment and that it makes them happy. It's like, what does it matter to you? If this person speaks mistakes when they speak Tagalog or whatever.
yeah. But I also want to encourage people, because I think like by showing people also my levels, which are basic levels to people, I also reach another audience of people who also, yeah, how do you say? They see that I'm human, like that I make
Yeah.
mistakes, and they can learn something of that. Because I think the most people who are learning languages, most of them, they want to survive speaking that language, or they want to travel, for example. Like there are not so many people. Well, there, of course, there are also people who want to become, well, want a very high level. Don't take me wrong, but many people want to use a language because they want to travel, they want to survive,
Right.
they want to communicate, they want to make communicate with the family, for example. And for those language, for those ideas, if you want to communicate your ideas, like you don't need to have a really high level. However, it is still my goal to next year, 2021, to get six other languages at the same level as which I have in Spanish. That's a huge goal.
Woof. Wow.
25 hours per week. That will be my time. But if I tell people that I can tell my mistakes, they can tell it. They can tell me how I could improve. I would take it. I can handle criticism, but there are two different ways of criticism. There's criticism in which you say, in which you tell people like, "Yo, you make these mistakes. This is how you can improve it." That's good. I think that's very awesome. That motivates me. But there's also sort of criticism in which people, yeah, tell you basically to stop, and that's dangerous, because if someone stops learning a language, he or she will forget everything. And I basically want to motivate people to keep learning, to never give up, to keep practicing. How many people are there, for example, who live for 6 months in a certain country, right? Because they had an
Hmm.
exchange or a study, whatever. And really, there are people who are never using that language anymore when they return. And that's the whole
Right.
thing. You need to continue. It's like use it or lose it. That's what I think.
100%.
Yeah, so that's what I want to tell to those people. Like, you can criticize me, I respect it, I take it, and it helps me a lot if it can, how do you say it, like, I'm asking for this
Improve.
feedback, so it's welcome. But I think it's also important that people understand what my intentions are of creating content. And there's like an other thing, and there's like my content is pretty entertaining
Yeah.
mostly, but that also means that there are people who are not interested in languages, but they could become interested in languages when they see entertaining content, because um,
Absolutely.
reach another audience and they start learning a sort of language or whatever, because they're thinking like, oh, cool, it could also be this way or that way, So, um, like, there are many people who like, for example, prank videos, like, and that's what I like. I like to get the language learning community bigger with more people,
Right.
with people who are not interested in languages at all at the beginning.
You're
So this
opening
basically
doors.
are. And yeah, and the other thing is like I love to connect to people, So I uh yeah, that's my main passion, my main love in order to learn languages. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
one of your key themes that you always mention, and I've noticed when we talked, one on one, is that you feel really passionate about motivating people to learn
Yes.
languages. Can you talk a little bit? Why do you feel this importance to motivate people in with languages in particular? Because I have my motives, my reasons, and I love that you're so inspired, like I am in a sense, and I would love to hear your perspective about that.
Why I became so inspired, right?
No,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. Why do you think it's so important for you to inspire other people,
Or to
but
inspire other.
specifically by
Yeah.
language?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm a little bit tired. Yeah, I get you.
No worries.
It's a long day, but yeah, why is it so important to inspire other people? Well, you use the word inspiration very well, because like I would, when I look at my channel, the word inspiration is more uh, it's inspiration, not really education. Like it's more.
Mm.
I try to make content which is like, yeah, sort of unique. Like which is yeah, for example, these prank videos with a hat
Yeah,
like that. I think when
inspiration through entertainment, it seems like you're
yeah.
entertaining people,
Mhm.
making them enjoy themselves, but at the same time, you're inspiring.
Yeah, yes, like it's a sort of like paradox, this, because like I'm basically want to show how fun language learning is, and to not take it too seriously, but at the same time I take it really seriously. It's a sort of paradox, because I put a lot of time in language learning, like 25 hours per week, but at the same time I laugh about my mistakes, and I don't feel embarrassed when I'm awkward, So I've a little bit like this reputation of like an awkward guy who doesn't care so much. Well, I mean, if you are not afraid to make mistakes, and you make many mistakes, but at the same time you're reviewing your mistakes and learning from that, as long as you are doing that, it will help you a lot. So it's better
Right.
to make more mistakes at the beginning, and to realize which those mistakes are, or you could even ask a native speaker, than when you would be too afraid to make them. Why? And you're avoiding things. So in that way, I want to inspire people. I want to inspire people to not be afraid to talk to strangers or to people, because they're human as well. They also have hearts. They will understand that that's not your mother tongue. They will try their best to help you. All right. And
Hmm.
that's also what I want to tell to actually. I want to say something positive. Like there have been indeed some people who criticize me, but even in the comments of people who are criticizing me, there are still helpful things. There's still things which
Mm.
people say, even when it doesn't sound so nice. If they would still mention my mistakes, or telling me something, like, I mean, I think like, as long you can filter, as long you can see like, okay, this is what I can use, this is what I cannot use, you can develop yourself a lot. So that's why I think it's also good to well, to listen to people who maybe
Right.
sound so nice, because compliments are nice. Most people like compliments more than chocolate, right? But finally you become fat, right? Sorry to say. Yeah.
Exactly.
But like, to compare it like that. So if people don't give you a lot of compliments, but they criticize you a lot, it's a sort of boot camp. It makes you harder, it makes you
It's
tough.
language boot camp. Nice.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
that was
yeah.
a great kind of way that you related everything because if one thing language learning does is it humbles you because even when you speak a
Yeah.
language to an advanced level, like you'll say something that maybe just like what's that, and you'll be corrected or your friend will correct you, and you just like immediately like, ooh, okay, well, it lets you know that, well, I'm
Yeah, but
human.
there
It's
people, will also just tell me like, "Yo, Wouter, I just don't like you," and I'm like, "Yeah, I mean that happens, but I mean like, if I look at what they're saying and why, I can learn something about it." And I mean, it doesn't mean that I'm changing my personality or whatever, but I mean, it's always good to have a look at different perspectives, and sometimes you can learn more from people who are far away from you than people who are very close to you. And that sounds weird,
mm,
but to give an example, there are people who take language learning very seriously. They want to know everything. They even want to know how a word has been existed. If they, for example, if there's like an
the
article,
origin.
it's like an exception. They want to know why, what happened, why is it an exception, stuff like that. and that's really different than my approach, because I
Mine
don't go
too.
so deep. I'm just like, okay, it's a different article, it's an exception, that's it. But
Right.
those who take it so like serious on a higher level, they also bring me on a higher level. You know what I mean? So people were,
Right.
uh, how do you say it? Like, I think that there are people who are have way, way, way higher levels than me. They inspire me a lot, you know, and
Right.
also people who criticize me a lot can also inspire me a lot. So I think it's good to realize that receiving different feedback is not a bad thing. You know, everything is relative. That's how I see it. Yeah.
You never feel a little bit down because you get some harsh comments, or are you able to kind of like block things easily?
Well, it depends. You know, like if something is really well, as I said, if something is someone is criticizing me, you know, like well, it's okay. I told you, but yeah, sometimes things are going way too far. You know, like
Right.
if someone's really getting something out of the context, or well, then it's, well, I would not feel down maybe, but it's more like you should not use everything. You know, you also need to have a sort of helicopter view. Like if someone is saying like, I think that you just know three phrases in Spanish, like, I mean, then I'm like, if you think that, well, call me then. You know, like
Right.
that. Then it's more a little bit like, it's also very easy to write something about someone if you don't know that person. And I think it's better if people connect to each other and show respect to each other, and
Yes.
also respect that we all have different goals, you know. And yeah, as I also
Right.
for people, you know. So I think it's about respect, and we should understand that we have all different goals, all different motives, and that the language learning community is full of different people with different personalities, and I'm happy with that, because these people are
Right.
bring that they could inspire each other. They can inspire each other a lot, and that's already happening, you know. Because if I look at how many people I have around me, how many beautiful people, I'm very happy with that. Yeah.
And let me ask you, how do you think of your videos? 'Cause I think you have like probably the funnest videos or ideas in the language learning community. I think my favorite video of all time, like language ideas, when you had the I will pay you €5 if I can't speak your language. That's
Yeah.
such an epic series, Woulter. You got to bring that back because people get really excited. They come to you and
Yeah.
they speak their language, and a lot of the times you know the language, or maybe you don't, but you're really interested, and like it's just so it's really really fun. Where do you come up with these ideas?
Well, the most funny thing, yeah, how do you say it? Of course, I don't want to say about my, I how do you say it? I don't like it to. I'm a little bit humble, you know. So to tell about your own ideas, that they're like very good ideas, it's a bit difficult. But let's say it like that. I know that it's like, yeah, it's a you know, like unique idea, you know, like,
Of
because
course.
the thing what I like about it is that people are coming to me, you know.
Mhm.
That's how I also introduce that idea. Normally I have to talk to people, and
Right.
suddenly people as sort of zombie apocalypse, they're coming to you. They're like,
It's really like that.
they're attacking you, like, yo,
I speak Welsh. Do you
yeah, yeah, yeah.
speak
Like,
Welsh?
I mean, like, probably when I had a €5 T-shirt on, you know, during a couple of hours, there were probably more people going to me than women came to me entire my while life, you know. And I know that there's love with women. Let's, maybe we should not talk about that. We can do that during another video. But yeah, when it's about money, you know, people are like racing to you, like, yo, do you speak this? Do you speak that? What I liked about that experience is that the most crazy rare languages where I never heard about were coming to me, and sometimes I was even not sure that language exists. But I always,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah, but
Like
yeah, but I
there's
mean,
there's one video, or there's one
yeah,
part where this girl speaks to you in a language, and I think she says it's Swedish, but the people are saying like she's modifying her Swedish so that you can't understand it. She was a little kind of tricky. She was trying to make you not understand her language. I think you speak a bit of Swedish, and you didn't understand the way that she was speaking it. And the comments, they're like, What did that girl do? She just ripped you off $5.
But actually, like at that moment, I didn't speak Swedish. Like I just spoke Danish at the
Danish,
moment.
right?
But
Uh,
yeah, but normally I can understand some Swedish. However, in any case, I even when I would have understand them, I would still have given them the €5 because it's about speaking it, not understanding it.
sure.
So,
You're
but
not
anyway,
cheap,
I
I
was a
see
little bit
this. You
surprised
got
about it. And there was like one other guy who said like, "Oh, €5. Now I can go to the Burger King," you know. So it's
I,
like, yeah,
how did you feel when you heard that? Because I was like, oh.
that was yeah, it was hilarious, man. Like sometimes I mean, I yeah, just one also like one time one homeless guy was running to me getting the to get a €5, you know, like in one of my videos, you know. And these experiences are hilarious indeed, you know. So
Yeah,
it's mean like for those €5 which you lose per time, you're winning like an amazing experience, you know, like an amazing it's cool to see how happy people are with €5. What I also like is if you look in the Netherlands, like €5 or maybe in Europe, I mean, it is money, of course. Don't take me wrong. I mean, it's like it's a good meal,
the
but
beer,
it's
like
not
that guy said.
a lot of money. But I mean, for example, people from India, or for example, you know, like or €5 could be a lot. You know, it could be huge. You know, so it's I think €5 is exactly a sort of good amount, sort of number, which is not too much, but also not too less. You know, so
Of
that's why I thought,
course. Yeah,
yeah.
it's a perfect medium where, if you lose that, I mean, it adds up, of course, but it makes it worth it for every individual, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. But indeed, I love creating this content, and yeah, again, people were not interested in languages first. Sometimes they became interested in languages, you know, and that's something which I really like, you know, to inspire more people and yeah, make the language learning community bigger. And
Right.
yeah, I'm really happy with my entire heart. I can tell that the most interesting thing which I have while when having a channel is the people who I meet. You know, all those amazing people like Richard Simcott, like Steve Kaufman, like you. You know that's amazing. I cannot explain in words how much that mean to
Wow.
me. You know, so that's something which is cool. Those people are like basically they're feeding my brains. They're
Wow.
feeding my brains with words, with vocabulary, with grammar, you know. And I mean, like my brains are getting so big after a while that they're popping out probably, you know. If I still let my brains get feeded by all these languages from those people, you know, because sometimes I'm like, Richard, how can you put so much language learning information in your head? How can you do that?
Wow.
You know, like how is it possible? Crazy, really. It's that guy is huge. I mean, that's
Right.
really like a really a person who I respect is like a hero. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one thing I would like to tell the audience because you did this interview with Richard Simcott and it was
Yes.
awesome. And after you and I, we had a little talk about it, and you were just telling me how inspired you were after this conversation with Richard. And I thought that this was really nice because, you're a guy who inspires a lot of people yourself, but you are still humble to be inspired or to take inspiration from anywhere you can get it. And I really respected that.
Well, that guy, man. Like, if I look at him, like he is 20 times better in languages, you know, than me. You know, like even in my
He
mother.
speaks every language, like
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he speaks
Even
many
my mother.
languages like native language, it
He
seems.
speaks my mother tongue even better. You know, like and then when someone at such a high level is so humble, you know, like I also take a lot from that person, you know, like I mean he's so humble and he's so nice and also friendly, and he also accepts that everyone has different language learning goals, and it has been a huge interesting experience to talk to him, and right now we're also practicing languages. So um yeah, if people want to whatever like get a very very good accent, they really need to check out that guy Richard Simcott, because like he's I don't know, man, how to call it. Like I don't have words for it, but he's like a hero. He's a legend.
Of
He's
course.
huge.
Oh,
I mean,
100%.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And one thing I have to ask you is that,
Sure.
you're doing these videos when you're going to out on the street, approaching people. I think this takes a lot of guts. Have you always been so outgoing, or are you outgoing now, or when did this happen, or is it something that you basically have needed to develop, or what's the situation like? Because I think, wow, Walter is like, look
Actually,
at
like,
him.
yeah, people would not expect this probably, but I was very shy in the past. Like, actually, also a bit, also inconfident, and well, let's say like this. The Yeah, I was like more an introvert, like I'm also an artist.
Of
I
course.
was thinking a lot of people didn't understand me, like that, with drawing and doing stuff like that. And I was an introvert, but because of the languages, well, I'm not sure if the languages changed me. Maybe
Mm,
they get another part out of me, maybe because of the language learning circumstances, it made me more relaxed, like it's the same as like if you have a rabbit who was like living in the forest, yeah, that rabbit would be different if that rabbit would be in a house with people, for 5 years. However, it's still the same rabbit, right? That's basically what I mean, I'm the same person. My personality didn't change, but it developed more in a way that I'm more feeling more relaxed to talk to people. Also, when you're making videos for a long time, you're getting more used to comments, as what I said before, like criticism. You
yes.
handle it better, and at the beginning, I was not so good at it. So, for example, like even some people didn't like me at all at the beginning. Some of them they became friends of me, like and we got a good connection because we were talking to each other. So I basically want to say to people, talk to each other. Like if you have different ideas, different approaches, talk about it because like you're closer to each other than you might think, and that's interesting. If you can inspire each other and make each other 2 times stronger by exchanging your ideas about languages, by telling how you can inspire someone else. I think that's a very very cool thing. And
Right.
yeah, but how I changed, yeah, like I mean, yeah, by doing something a lot, you will become more confident. So uh yeah, I think that's the story. I'm
Of
just used
course.
to strangers,
Wow.
and it's not strange
And
anymore.
that's
Yeah.
really the beauty of language in general is that when you are able to speak to one another, you are able to connect, you're able to get rid of these kind of negative feelings or um, just outlooks or whatever. You understand that we're all just people. And that I think that's one of the key essence of learning languages is that you have more of an ability to do that with more people. In your
Yeah.
video that we did together, I was talking about how I want to really motivate people to learn a language, or let's say maybe one day I could start a school where little kids can study Spanish because, I think that, if Americans could start incorporating foreign languages in their lives, like they're going to have amazing experiences, but just see the world through a different way. And I, as someone who was monolingual for a long time, I know how much this has changed me, and I just want other people to realize the beauty of language. And if they study language, they can have amazing experiences, or they can really help make the world a better place. As
Yeah, but I
sadly
think
as
it's
that sounds.
important to keep in mind that like when you are hearing something like feedback, or like why are people afraid to approach strangers? Because they are maybe afraid to get how do you say it, like to be ignored or whatever, like, or that people will
Mhm.
laugh about them. But I think it's very important to realize that everyone is different, and that you should never allow that one experience is dominating other experiences, like, so if someone is not nice to you, well, talk to someone else, and maybe that person is more nice. And also keep in mind that what people are saying is not always what they're meaning, so it's the same with
Mm.
I think you've talked to yeah, like I mean, you've met different women. I mean, you're a good looking guy, and I mean,
Oh,
like,
thanks.
well, it's your first compliment of today. But I mean, like, for example,
I'll be
if
waiting for my next one.
if a woman is saying to you like, "Oh, your hair is so long and it looks so weird," and whatever, and laughing a little bit about it, it doesn't mean she doesn't like you. She could also
Oh,
like it because she's paying attention on that, like Otherwise, she wouldn't even look at it, and she would also not say it. And that's the same thing with reactions of people. What they're saying is not always what they mean. They can also mean the opposite. They can also, uh, yeah. When someone is saying you're awkward, it could be negative, but it doesn't have to be negative.
Mm.
It could also mean that they would feel awkward under the same circumstance.
Absolutely. Wow, what a good
It could mean
point.
you're different. It could mean you're different, or
Or
it
you
could.
doing something that they wish they could do that they just don't do,
Yeah, but that
right?
also mean it the negative. I mean, and man, like people can think what they want. I mean, if they think I'm awkward in a negative way, okay, they can have that opinion. I mean, they're free to have an opinion. I, and not everyone has to be happy. I mean, come on. But I mean, why why are people so interested in awkward videos? Can you answer the question then? Because people often like it when they can feel a sort of like embarrassment, but they are
Yeah,
not the person. Why are people watching horror movies? Why are people watching drama movies? Why are
never
the most
thought of it like
drama,
that.
awkward stuff? Why is it so popular on television? It's because people like it. If someone like how do you say it, has embarrassing moments, or when
Mm.
someone is like getting ignored by women, for example, they love drama. And it's the same thing with awkwardness. They like awkwardness because they don't want to be in that position. They're like, ha ha ha, you're there,
Wow,
that's an awkward situation, and I'm not. I'm here.
I
Yeah, I'm not.
never thought of it like that. Man, it makes a lot of sense though.
Yeah, well, people are looking at programs like that, right? I mean, you're not
True.
looking at a program when someone is just like whatever, happy.
Uh,
Like I mean, people like it when there's a sort of embarrassment or drama. People like that. That's right.
yeah, that's really true. And
Can you also disagree with me one moment? Yeah.
okay, all right. What can I disagree with you about? Uh, well, I mean, I could pull up some things, but it's been so cool to talk to you. Just we're getting towards the end, but one thing I want to tell you about is that I really, really respect the fact that you also you go out of your way to learn languages that are outside of what's considered the ordinary. Can you talk a little bit why you learn some languages that maybe not some other people would even think about learning? Like you have studied some languages that I probably don't even know the name of some of these languages or that they even exist. I saw you were in Mexico. You learned Mayan, a little bit of Mayan. I mean, this is awesome. Can you talk to me a little bit about why you do this?
Well, you already gave the answer to your question. You asked like, why are you learning languages where people don't think about? Well, because people don't think about, and if they don't
Uh,
think about it, people might forget it, and that's the whole thing. Like I want to
regain
show the
consciousness.
beautiness of those languages. I want to. I hope that they can exist after 1,000 years. Like, well, I really have ideas about it because like so many people are like focused on English, and I basically want to show like, yo, don't forget this language, don't forget that language. For me
Right.
it's like sort of art. Like if you go to a museum, like you're also not saying like, oh, I don't like this art style, whatever, let's throw this away. No, I mean, for museum collection of languages, and I've invited people as polyglots for those multilingual bet game, and there was like even a guy who spoke a language which is spoken by two people, like two people, just that, really, like what's it, Wagiman, he spoke that. And I mean, that he spoke that in my video was like, whoa, it's almost like a sort of museum video, like an historical moment. I mean, how long will that language survive? I mean, at least
Right.
it has been caught in a video, and that's such a huge honor.
100%.
It's such a huge honor. So for me, it's like a sort of museum value to show the beautiness of these languages. And
Of
that's also
course.
why I like to invite different people to my videos, like a huge variety of languages. And this year, I've heard tons of different languages from people where I never heard about, and that's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really amazing to learn about these little known languages because as we know, every language is beautiful. Every language has its beauty, and every language is worth preserving or giving attention to. So I really appreciate when people do things like that. And
I mean,
um,
it's like countries. Sometimes people are also like judging about countries, and I'm like, in each country you have beautiful people or maybe less beautiful people. Like same with languages, it has also each language has beautiful elements, you know, and I think it's so valuable. And yeah, I think that's what I want to say about
And
it.
it breaks barriers, you know, because let's say I'm from the States, you know, let's say there's stereotypes of what a Mexican person's like. They don't
Yeah,
really know what a Mexican person's like. They're warm, nice, beautiful. They've got so much to offer. You know, the same thing with like one of the things I was fascinated about learning Russian was like in Russia was like this mystery, and for us, all
yeah,
we know about Russia is like, oh, the Cold War, Russia was our enemy, and I'm not interested in that. I wanna know the people, get to the root of the matter, you know, see how they really are. Because when you see how people really are, you understand that, you know, they're great and they're just like you and me. You know, I've told this story before where I had a Russian student. He was kind of shy and a bit serious. I told him that, hey, I'm studying Russian. So he's like, oh, say something for me in Russian. And I said, you
yeah.
know, told him some stuff, and he immediately lit up, and like the class just changed. And you know, that's the power of language. But
But I also
you know
think like,
that's as good as anyone.
yeah, I've also noticed like, for example, since I started learning writing and reading Russian, it also helped me a lot. Like many of them also like to write to text you, you know,
Mm.
and yeah, like I think that they like that. Maybe because I don't know why. I mean, I'm not I didn't study anthropology, but maybe it's because Russia has a huge literature. Maybe they just like
Mm.
to read. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, like they really enjoy that. That's what I see. And what I've also seen with Russians in general, like at the beginning when they don't know you, there might be some distance, but once they you are speaking that with them for a longer time, they invite you, you become their brother. They share
Wow.
things with you, and it just takes a little bit like some more time. But when they say stuff, they mean it. You know, like it's like that. They, yeah, how do you say it? Like they are. I like their attitude. So, for example, when you ask like как дела, they say like не плохо or нормально,
Not
right?
bad.
So they don't really, yeah, they don't really make things more beautiful as others. Oh, they are. I like that. I like that because
That's cool.
most people are saying
Oh,
like,
I'm
"How
fine.
are
I'm
you?"
great. How are you? But things
Yeah, I'm
are
great. How are
terrible.
you? Amazing, amazing. And I'm like, yeah, but to how many people you've said that they're amazing? What is amazing? You know, like that's a bit what I mean. You know, and yeah, it's the same story actually as what I like about those comments, which are compliments, but also like huge criticism. You know, I like the variety. If people just tell you that you're, if they would just give you compliments, it's boring. I mean, like the variety makes it cool, I think, and that's the same feeling which I have with different cultures of different languages. You know, same feeling. Yeah,
Variety gives you more spice in your life, so why not have that? It's great.
yeah, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, well, we talked about different things. I'm very hungry right now. I think I need to eat five meatballs with some fries and whatever, you know, like put some
Right.
on it.
I,
Yeah,
I asked all my questions, and I just wanted to say thank you for coming on and having this very interesting talk because you, as some other people, have inspired me. So it's great to be able to speak with you about that. And that's why I say if you want to start a channel because last year I didn't have a channel. Now this year I've met so many interesting people and people who I admire and that I'm a fan of, like yourself.
man,
So
start
who knows what else
podcast.
can happen.
Start, you need to start podcast, man. Really. Like, I mean, you could like interview different people, basically. You know, like I mean, it's cool what you're doing. I like your approach. It's also like unique. The
Thank
questions
you.
which you ask are really like not questions which I always hear. They're very different and new. So
That was the idea of this interview series.
yeah, yeah. It's not a standard question as like, for example, what is the hardest language or what is the easiest language or
Yeah.
like that.
Interesting.
No, really, really cool, deep questions which yeah showed a lot of my personality and a lot of about my intentions, and that's good. I think you should do more with that. Yeah.
Thank you. I will. And thank you for being on. Anything you want to say to the people before you go?
Um, yeah, I mean, keep practicing. I mean, stay safe, of course, but also never think that something is impossible. That's really my message. Like always even when you have like a basic level, you know, like keep practicing, keep learning the language, keep feeding your brains, you know, like, and find a lot of people around you who are also speaking languages, and try to listen to them. Like when you have different approaches, try to find a nice balance, and yeah, try to get language learning in your life. You know, try to watch movies in different languages. Try to listen to podcasts in different languages. Are you still there, or?
I'm here. I'm here.
Yes. And like, can you still see me, or?
I can. I can.
I don't see you actually. Oh yeah, there I see you, man. Sorry, like I received a call. I didn't
No
uh
worries.
I declined that call. Yeah, but what I want to say as well, what I want to tell the people, yeah, try to get as much resources in your life, and try to learn languages on a natural way. So also talk to your friends in different languages. Just text them, and try to implement language learning in your life by listening to music, watching movies in different languages, and don't make it too complicated. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time, Wouter. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, man. Thanks
All right,
for
we'll see.
that I could join. Cheers. Good
Bye
luck, man.
bye.